Welcome to NaVOBA's Marching Forward Mondays podcast. I'm your host, Frank Vitale. The National Veteran-Owned Business Association, NaVOBA, is an independent 501c3 nonprofit organization governed and led by corporate America. NaVOBA's mission is to create corporate contracting opportunities for America's veterans and service-disabled veteran business enterprises through certification, advocacy, outreach, recognition, and education. NaVOBA's Marching Forward Mondays podcast series will showcase NaVOBA's professional and business opportunities for veteran-owned businesses and corporations. I would like to thank NaVOBA's corporate allies and this episode's special sponsor, Lowe's Home Improvement. Lowe's has a proud history of supporting the communities where they live and work, and is honored to play a role in the success of veteran-owned businesses. For the latest news, visit newsroom.lowes.com or follow at Lowe's, L-O-W-E-S, Media on Twitter. Join with me on today's podcast is Paris Love, CEO of Paris Love Productivity Institute, LLC. Paris Love is one of the country's foremost organizational and productivity coaches, a best-selling author on Amazon.com, highly sought-after speaker, and former U.S. Army Sergeant. Love has a tremendous talent for bringing order to chaos, providing her clients with streamlined, efficient, manageable approaches to running their lives and businesses. After many years of working with a wide variety of clients in a host of settings, she is focused on her specialty, and that's helping overwhelmed professionals break through the barriers of keeping them disorganized, disoriented, dissatisfied with their life, business, and or career. Paris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. Tell us a little bit more about your background in developing productivity and organizational skills.
So I was, if you can imagine, I was the child that my parents didn't have to tell to clean their room up, to make their bed. I would advertise the spices.
Nice.
And that's just what I did. I went to college. I made my roommate's bed, made sure everything was neat and orderly. And fast forward several years later, I had a doctor, it's actually my son's doctor because I have a special needs son. He said, you know, it's not normal to go to other people's homes and organize their things. And I think I was organizing his bookshelf when he was telling me this. And I thought, well, my friends like when I come over. He said, well, you have obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And that's one of the things my son has. So I was like, oh, I'm the reason why he's like this. And I started doing further research into OCD. And I discovered the National Association of Professional Organizers. And I thought, wait a minute. So I'm not weird. There are other people just like me. And then the light bulb went off. Wait a minute. They get paid to do this? So I started my business 17 years ago. And it has been an amazing journey. Someone told me, you know, you survived 2 recessions. I was like, I guess I have in a pandemic. So, and I'm still standing. But I realized that it's not about the clutter. It's about something else. And I'm really good at getting to what that something else is.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's so much, we have to get our game on, right? I mean, and every day we feel like, all right, we want to get out there and do good things, but sometimes things hold us back, and sometimes it's physical clutter, and sometimes it's mental and emotional clutter, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But so you mentioned your son. I think you said son, right?
Yes.
And so clearly your organizational skills have helped there. But tell us a little bit about how your skills and your OCD, as you mentioned. How has that helped you? In your life?
And I built upon some of my military background, even though I think I was this way when I was in the military. It's really been discipline and focus on the task at hand. And it's not allowing distractions, and distractions happen, but not really allowing that to overtake the task at hand. And so really staying laser focused on what you're doing.
No, I think that's great. I mean, when you look back at, your being a student, your military service, your career, can you give some examples of how, sort of having those innate skills, really? It sounds like to me that those are built in you. You're hardwired this way. Maybe give a couple of examples to our listening audience, how, that's helped you.
Mm-hmm. So when you have a task at hand, it can be overwhelming. And you can go, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Like it can stress you out. It can cause anxiety. What has helped me I call my little toolbox, is a timer. Because I have a thing about time. So I like to time myself. Like, how fast can I get this done? I like to have a planner. I am a planner by nature. I love my planner. I can leave my wallet, my cell phone at home. I need my planner. So I have my timer, my planner, and my planner has a calendar in it. I call it my Bible. So everything is in my planner. And these are the tools that really keep me focused and on task, so that the task doesn't appear to be as overwhelming as I have portrayed it to be, if that makes sense.
Sure. So, it's funny, you talk about a timer. I've got my timer going right now. Say. So I get it, right? I mean, it puts guardrails on us, right? It sort of helps us, not to get outside of our frame, not to get outside of our lane, so to speak, as we like to say in the Army, right? So yeah. So I agree. I think a lot of people listening today are dealing with, we're all dealing with a lot, right? We're in a global pandemic that you mentioned earlier, and we also live in a time of instant gratification. And I find myself, at times I'll text someone a question, and if they're not getting back to me in minutes, I'm like, a nervous wreck. I'm like, well, why aren't they paying attention? Or where are they? Yeah. Or did something happen or what have you? I mean, what are your thoughts about sort of, how we've, maybe we over expect, immediate, sort of gratification from one another. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, it's about setting boundaries. We teach people how to treat us. So, for example, and we all have that friend that's always late. We know we have that one friend that is always late. So we know that they're late. But we also have that friend that they are Johnny on the spot. You call them, you text them, immediately responds. Then there's the one day where they're a little slow in getting back to you. And somehow, I call it the monkey mind. We go, well, what happened? What's wrong with me? Like, we projected on ourselves to think that we did something, and not really look at the big picture to say, well, maybe they were busy at the time. Maybe, they're going to get back to me in a timely fashion. But our monkey mind is like, I need an answer right now.
Right.
Like, I need it right now. And we do live in a microwave society. But again, we teach people how to treat us. So it's setting those boundaries. I always tell people, if you call someone, sometimes they say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not available. I would get back to you by the end of the day. I would get back to you within, a couple hours. So those expectations, if you call someone and say, I'm going to get back with you within 24 hours, then you don't have to stress out, because within 24 hours, you can expect a phone call. Now, if they don't get back to you in 24 hours, then, you can call them back. But I also think that whenever we send someone an email or a text message, have some little flexibility, because everyone's busy. Everyone has things going on. And so we just have to be mindful that, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, the world does not revolve around us.
Right. Yeah, managing expectations is so important, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes. I mean, yes. and you're an entrepreneur, and I think as an entrepreneur myself, I do my very, very best to always manage expectations, because I don't want to let people down. And I know you're the same way. So speaking of that, what led you you've got these innate skills we talked about, and they've been validated by others, right? So we know that. So what led you to start your own business?
I think this was something, it comes easy to me. And I realized that what comes easy to me doesn't necessarily come easy to everyone else. And looking back, so when I was told that I had OCD, like you were like, oh my goodness, like you stressed out, like something's wrong. And then I immediately turned it around and said, wow, I can help other people with this skill. Like it's nothing wrong with being productive and organized. Like this is a skill that I have that is so easy for me. Let me teach it to someone else. So it's turning something negative into something positive.
Right. I think that's great. And so that's sort of your why, right? That's
Yes.
As Simon Sinek says, that's your why. That's what, that's what caused you to get started. And it sounds to me like, you've been true to yourself, and that's pretty special. I have to admit, I don't see that every day. So that's great. So, we talked about the global pandemic, and it really is, especially for parents, I think, and I'm a parent, it's overwhelming. And so, with regards to your clients, how are you supporting them, in a COVID-19 environment?
Yes. Oh, I love this topic. So, because everyone comes to me, we are co-working from home now, whether it's you're working from home or you and your spouse, but the children are home too. And a lot of times the children have stayed home and not opted to go back into the classroom. So there's a lot of distractions there. There's a lot of moving pieces. And it's really, again, you have to set those boundaries, use that planner, use that scheduler, use a timer, and you have to set expectations for your children. So for example, when the children were going to school, they get up at a certain time, they had breakfast, they caught the school bus, went to class, they came home, either you picked them up or, they were home already. Like it was a set routine.
Right.
Now that everyone's at home, and if you're still at home, remember the routine. So your children, they should get up at the same time as if they were going to school, even if school is at the kitchen table.
Right.
Because what's happening, and a lot of my parents tell me this, and I'm going to call him Little Johnny. I got little Johnny up and he's at the kitchen table. So I went to my office to work. They're thinking that their child is working, and they go back in there. Where's little Johnny? Little Johnny went back to bed. Because little Johnny said, well, my teacher's not online, so why should I sit here, again, microwave society, why should I sit here and wait for them to come for lecture? And mom and dad, they're in the office, so they went back to bed. No. Little Johnny needs to get up, have his breakfast, sit at that table. These are your expectations. This is your schedule. This is what you do. And if you need help, you look, sit up the red flag. I have a question, because you have to work too. So you want to minimize those distractions as well.
Yeah. So I've got 3 little Johnnies at home, and one of them, it's not back to bed. It's on the iPad, it's on the device. And so I think, your point is very valid. Do you suggest that, we talked about, and we'll talk more about students in a moment, but, do you suggest for your clients who are working from home that they themselves stick to their routine?
Oh, yes. So again, I'm the planner. So I have a set routine. So let me give you my tools of the trade. On Sunday, look at the week. Like, what do you have to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Are there meetings scheduled? And they're probably all Zoom meetings. And I get it, because I'm about zoomed out at this point. You have your Zoom meetings. You have projects that you're probably working on. If you're a manager, you probably have people that you have to ensure that they're doing their work. Like, plan out the week, schedule it out, because you have to have a schedule. So you start work at 8:00 on Monday. That means breakfast, little Johnny's up, everybody's ready to go, because at 8:00, you need to sit at your desk and be ready to work. And little Johnny should be at their desk ready for their schoolwork. And you schedule everything out. Take a lunch break, which means I know that you're at home. Get up from your desk, go to the kitchen or go into another area and eat. Go take a walk. Get away from what you're doing, because if you're sitting there for 8 hours a day, you're really not being as productive as you think. Here's a statistic for you. The average worker is only productive 2 hours and 53 minutes in an 8.8-hour day.
Oh my.
That's
Wow.
kind of daunting. Yes. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing for the rest of the time?
Good question.
Yeah. And little Johnny, he's on the iPad and talking to his friends and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting because businesses, corporations, small businesses, we're all about, efficiency, right? Efficiency, and especially now. One of the biggest criticisms that or concerns that I heard from larger businesses when we started working remotely back, right around early March. As a nation, we really started to pivot to remote work, was that there was just this lack of trust, if you will, that people were actually home working. But I think there was a transformation, and I'm going to ask you to comment on this, but I think there was actually a transformation for those of us that did go home to work. Mm-hmm. We actually learned to be more efficient.
Yes.
Thoughts on that?
Yes. It's when you tell someone that you work from home, somehow you just said, I stay at home and do nothing. Like how? I didn't say that.
Right.
And a lot of companies, and I get that a lot of companies are saying you need to sign out when you go to the bathroom, you need to sign out when you go to lunch. And people are like, oh, I don't want to be micromanaged. So when you're at home, you really have to sit there and be laser focused. But when you do that, you know what happens? I think I need to do laundry. I should go outside and work on the yard. Did I turn the stove off? Let me go check on little John. Like all this stuff comes into your head.
Right.
And so a lot of people said, okay, most people go, let me go do the laundry. Other people say, you know what? For the next hour and a half, I'm going to set a timer. I'm just going to be laser focused and work on this project. I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to have any distractions. And that way you're much more productive. Here's a little technique. You know how, okay, so today is Thursday. Let's say you're going on vacation next week. So all this week, Monday through Thursday, you're like, yeah, I'm going to, sunny California. Oh my goodness. Like you're thinking all of this stuff that you're going to do on vacation.
Right.
And it's Thursday. You're like, I got to get my bathing suit. Like you're packing, you're doing all this stuff. Come Friday, you're like, all right, you are super productive.
Right.
You goofed off all week, but Friday you're super productive because two things happen. You know that when you go on vacation, no one's going to do your work.
Yeah.
When you come back, it's going to be piled up, and you don't want that to happen. So you try to be super productive. So how about this? Why don't you treat every day as if you're going on vacation?
Yeah. That's great. And it's a great point, right? I mean, when we need to be productive, we step up. But again, I think during this time, we've all found ways to be more productive. And I hopefully that's a good takeaway. That's a good, sort of transition that we've all had to make. And hopefully we carry that forward. So very excited to have you, Paris. Our guest today, Paris Love. Paris, you're a best-selling author with 10 published books, so you must be very efficient. You've received Amazon's top 100 bestsellers in 2 categories, and the TAZ Award for your novel Growing Pains. So you're an accomplished author, and we're just excited to have you on NaVOBA's podcast today. We talked a little bit about students. And you mentioned you had some great tips about getting them up and dressed and ready, and some of those I have deployed in my own home, and so I'm glad to hear that. But let's talk about the academic work because times have changed, Paris, and the math isn't the same as when I was in school, and maybe the same for you. So let's talk a little bit about how do you think that parents can and should engage in the virtual learning, the actual academics of their children while still managing that workflow at home?
Ask for help. So I'm also an educator. So there are I tell people I can teach any subject. Don't give me math because the new math is not the math that we were taught, and I can't. No.
That's right.
But when you ask for help, if your child was going to regular school, you would get a tutor. You would get after school care. So why not ask for help? Like we talked about this earlier about technology. Go on social media, ask your neighbors, ask your child's teacher, what resources are available to help me with the lesson plan? And it doesn't necessarily have to be math. It could be, English or social studies, science. Ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. And that also gives your child the opportunity to say, oh, my parents, they really weren't sure, but they asked for help. It's okay if I ask for help too. Because remember when you're in class, like you don't understand something, but nobody's asking questions. And the one person that goes, teacher, I need help. And you go, oh, thank goodness, because I had that same question. Like when ask a question, 5 or 6 other people had that question too. So it's okay to ask for help. There are a lot of resources out there. There are some free tools since the pandemic that universities and regular grade schools are offering that you can get free resources out there too.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Again, I've seen this firsthand, and just trying to keep those kids engaged and is important. So one of the things that I though concern myself with is this screen time. Because when kids are home all day doing virtual classes, especially little kids, being behind a screen for 5-6 hours throughout the day can be pretty rough, and it's easy to get distracted. What are your thoughts for making sure that the kids stay positive, enthusiastic, and engaged in the actual academic work?
They have to have learning within blocks of times, whether it's 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour. The same as if they were in regular school, you have blocks for each subject. And so when you're at home, again, if we as adults thinking, did I do the laundry? Did I turn the stove off? Your child's probably thinking, maybe I should go. Their mind is running too. So, and you pretty much know your child. If their attention span is a longer period of time or a shorter period. So let's say that they have a short attention span. Let them work in blocks of 30 to 45 minutes. So set your timer, say, little Johnny, for 30 minutes, we're going to do reading. Here's your book, read the passage, answer the questions. When that timer goes off, they need to get up, stretch, refocus, but don't take long breaks because it takes 23 minutes for you to get back on task after you've taken a break or there's a distraction. So you don't want to take too long of a break. Get up, stretch, do jumping jacks. That's what we used to do in the military. Do some jumping jacks.
Yeah, get that blood flowing.
In the military, when we got sleepy, they used to tell us to go stand up in the back of the room.
Yeah.
You can do your child the same way. You getting sleepy, little Johnny? Stand up for a second.
Yeah.
But let them work in blocks of time. That way it's not overwhelming. They're better able to comprehend and retain the information. And again, have a set time for lunch. Give them a 30-minute lunch. Then let's get back and we're going to do social studies or math. You have to have those times for them. Because if not, if you imagine yourself sitting there for 5 hours straight looking at the computer, you're a zombie.
Right.
You're a zombie.
Right. Well, and I think that's a good point about, the jumping jacks. So just to go back to that for a minute, it may not be, you want to get that oxygenation back in your body. You want to get your blood pumping. So it may not be a bad idea after lunch to get them outside if the weather's okay and, get some fresh air, maybe do some jumping jacks, do a little bit of, stretches or whatever. Do you have any thoughts on physical sort of engagement?
Yes. Remember when we were younger, we had recess?
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Go outside. They can do, even if it's walking around the house. How about go to the mailbox? When my son was little, and I used to homeschool my son. So trust me, we used to have a set schedule. His highlight of his day was going to the mailbox. He enjoyed going to the mailbox. So have your child go to the mailbox. I know you're go to the They've gotten out the house. They have some exercise. And you can do, the jumping jacks, some push-ups. You can do some type of physical activity. So again, their blood gets pumping, everyone gets a break. And then when they sit back down, they're refreshed and ready to continue to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, so the other day, one of my, I have 8-year-old twins and girls, and one of them was in front of her Chromebook with the camera on doing modified push-ups. And I knew she wasn't doing that on her own. So she was apparently in gym class, virtual gym class.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great idea, and it brings that sort of that sense of again, get the body moving and sort of re-engage your mind. You said 23 minutes to get back on track.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So we've talked about the student schedule. We've talked about the stay-at-home remote worker schedule. Now I want to throw something else at you. Mom and dad, okay, or whomever, is adults, maybe there's 2 or 3 adults in the house, are all working remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to co-work and co-parent.
Mm-hmm.
When multiple adults are working from home, what are your recommendations for organization and scheduling?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, let's establish a work area. There's a reason why when you tell people you work from home, they go, you do nothing all day, because half the people are still in their PJs. They're sitting in the bed with the laptop in their lap working. No, ma'am, no, sir. Get up, shower, get dressed as if you are going to an office. Establish a work area, whether it's the kitchen table, the guest room. You have to have a designated work area. If you're sitting in the bed working, your mind goes, oh, it's time for us to go to bed. If you're in the living room, sitting on the couch, what do you do when you're in the living room sitting on the couch? You're entertaining, you're watching TV. So your mind goes, oh, we should be having fun right now. Your mindset is not in, this is work mode. So designate a work area, get out of your PJs, get dressed. Actually get dressed as if you're going to work. You don't have to put on a suit and dress, but get dressed. No PJs. That's not a work attire. Set boundaries with the entire family to say, and because you have various people working, space may be limited. That's why you designate a work area and say, this is my work area. I'm going to work from 9 to 3, for example. And you're setting that boundary to tell someone, this is my work time. I need to minimize the distractions. If there's something important, hold up a flashcard or, let me know. But, I'm on Zoom calls. You can't get interrupted. So you're setting those boundaries for them. Have a to-do list. This is the items that I need to get done today. This is the times that I need to get it done. I'm going to break for lunch. I'm going to, go check on little Johnny at, 2:00 to make sure little Johnny is actually doing his work and not went back to bed. But you also have to get buy-in from everyone, even the children.
Yeah.
And that's how we set expectations. And that's how we set boundaries. I say that a lot, but that is so, so key.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good point. I mean, I think, it's important to thank the kids and make sure they understand how important they are and that they're respecting those boundaries is important to mom, or to dad or to grandma, who's ever providing care. It says, look, I want you to know I appreciate that you respect that I'm working here and that, we'll set up designated times where I'll take a break and I'll come and help you with your schoolwork. So if you're caught on something, just move on and we'll come back to it. Just sort of establishing those rules. But I think what gets rewarded gets repeated. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We all like rewards. And it can be something very simple. You did a really good job today. Thank you. I appreciate that you didn't disturb me. I appreciate that you had a question and you waited until I was off the phone. And I also want to say, I understand that if you have a 2 or 3 year old, it's kind of hard because they don't understand, they need you now. But it's little things that you can do. If you have older children, maybe they can, between 12 and 12:30, they have a lunch for 15 minutes. Can you watch the baby or the younger children for 15 minutes while I finish this work?
Yeah.
So that way everyone feels like they're needed and they're wanted and appreciated.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And also being careful, although I've been guilty of this, in putting too much responsibility on the siblings, because it's hard for one sibling to, maybe if there's an age difference, to oversee another one. But like I said, I have twin girls, and if I ask one to help the other, I mean, I'm stretching them,
Mm-hmm.
and it may not always be reasonable. But we're very fortunate to have you on the show today. Paris, you're a accomplished author. We've already talked about that, and we're with our very special guest, Paris Love, today. She's been featured on Focus Atlanta, CW Atlanta, My Atlanta TV, and onlineorganization.com. I mean, you're really well known and well regarded in this area. So, thank you for being with us, and we really appreciate it. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank NaVOBA's corporate allies and this episode's sponsor, Lowe's Home Improvement. Lowe's has a proud history of supporting the communities where they live and work, and is honored to play a role in the success of veteran-owned businesses like Paris's business. So let's transition a little bit, if you would, and let's talk about managing and working remotely without going crazy. Because, look, so let's say we deploy all of the strategies that you've discussed already, but it can be overwhelming. And, while we talked about sending the kids out to the mailbox for a little exercise, if we're working, remotely from home, sometimes I think, and I know my own wife is guilty of this. That computer sits there. And so after dinner, she goes back to it. And what used to be a 10-hour workday is now a 12-hour workday because of just sort of this new environment. So how do we keep our sanity, Paris?
Self-care. There are 168 hours in a week. You have to do, keyword, have to do 16.8 hours per week of self-care. Now, how you do your self-care, you get to define that, whether it's walking to the mailbox, reading a book, binge watching one episode. I know binge watching is probably more episodes than that. But you get to define your self-care, whether you're doing yoga, you want to do some jumping jacks. If you just want to sit and stare at the walls, you get to define your self-care, but you have to do 16.8 hours. That way, you are decompressing for everything that's going on. We have so much coming in at us at one time. It's too much. And it starts to get overwhelming. And you're going to start to get frustrated. When we get overwhelmed, we do nothing. So you have to take some time to sit back and go, woosah, and do that self-care. Because, they have a saying now, if mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And I think that's the same with dad. If dad's not happy, ain't nobody happy. So take some time away from all the hustle and bustle and decompress.
Yeah, well, the former is the case at my house, not the latter. But I know what you mean. I mean, with that overwhelming though, and you're right. When we get overwhelmed, we shut down. And so it's like a camel in the sand. I mean, you're not pulling me up when I get overwhelmed. It's just I'm there for the count. Yeah. So, how can I be more productive when I get overwhelmed? What's that switch that I flip to get myself back on track?
You have to think of it as a reward. Like if I do X, so if I work for 3 hours, what's my reward for accomplishing this task or for being laser focused? So look at that reward, because if you remember as children, we love getting presents. We love getting rewards. We love good job. So what's your reward for doing X? And when you have a reward or you look forward to something, you get motivated. Like your blood gets pumping, just like going on vacation. Remember we talked about going on vacation like that Friday. You're like, okay, I'm laser focused because you know that there's a reward and that's your vacation. So think of it in terms of that. And that really, when you have something to look forward to, your productivity increases. I know that sounds kind of like weird, but try it out. Try it out.
No. I think you're right. I mean, it's about sprints, right? It's about these short sprints. And sometimes if we just focus on the long journey, we don't get that intrinsic reward, on an ongoing basis, or we delay the reward too much. It seems, I think, at times unachievable. And so, goal setting is critical, right? And not just long-term goals, but having those short-term goals. What is it that I must accomplish today? I have a little planner that I use where I put my must do's and my should do's. And I don't know if you use something like that, but I think it definitely makes a difference if I use it. It's like any other tool. If I leave it in the shed, it doesn't do me any good.
But also you bring up a good point. So you have your list like should do, would do, and the day that you don't look at your list, you kind of go, I knew it. I couldn't do it. And some of us, we go, okay, this is it. I didn't do it. It's over. But reset and go, okay, I didn't do it today, but there's always tomorrow. Like if you fall off the horse, get back on the horse. It's okay. Let me give your listeners this. It is okay. It is okay to lose your productivity and your organizational skills once in a while. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Guess what? It's a new day. You can always reset. The sun will come out tomorrow. You just start over. Yeah. How simple and easy is that?
I love that. I think that's great, Paris. I mean, it makes me think. You were talking about self, love. Well, I think personally, I think self-love involves forgiveness of yourself. We got to be able to forgive ourselves from time to time, and because it can get so overwhelming. There's no question, especially when we're carrying the burdens of others. So, all right. So I get up in the morning or whenever I go to work or start my day, and I've got a list of objectives for that day. And it's not one or two goals. I mean, it's a list, a laundry list, right? So where do I start?
First of all, we're not going to have a laundry list after today. No more than 7 items on that list.
All right.
And the reason why I say, I'm OCD, so I have my numbers.
Right.
The reason why I say no more than 7 is because if you have too many things on your list, it's overwhelming. You've already set yourself up for failure. Agreed. Like you got 110 things, you're like, I can't get this done. 7. So as you go through your list, and you can determine it's no right or wrong, you can do the easy task first, or you can go ahead and eat the frog and do the most challenging task. Whatever works for you. But once you accomplish something, cross it out. Do not add anything on that list until you have completed those 7.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great number. I mean, I think you have to start somewhere. So I'll just trust that number. I
okay.
Think, all right. You're the expert here. So I'll just trust that number. Okay. So, I'm in my work day, and clearly, you mentioned about doing the laundry and those kind of things. How do I eliminate distractions? How do I actually cut those distractions out? Because that can be very tough.
I know. And so I'm gonna make you my client right now, Frank.
All right. I could use the help, by the way.
Okay. I'm available. So as my client, I know that laundry's, and I'm just making this up, I know that laundry's like a really big thing right now. So guess what? Go do the laundry. Go do the laundry.
Okay.
Because if you don't, it's always going to be in your back of your mind. Oh, I got to do the laundry. I got to go cut the grass. Go do that item that's keep repeatedly coming back and back. Once you do that, now we can get to work. Now you can be productive.
Right. So you're removing that barrier.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. I mean, I never really thought about it that way. But I mean, if we're working in this new normal, in this new environment, then there are going to be different kinds of distractions. It's not Sam down the hall who comes in and wants to talk sports all morning. Mm-hmm. It's now the laundry. Sam has become the laundry.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good point, because when you're at work, you have certain type of distraction. You know, your coworkers are coming in, your manager's coming in, the phone's ringing, you have customers coming in. When you're at home, you think, oh, I don't have these distractions anymore. But yes, you do. One, you have your family. They need something. And when they want it right then and there. Two, you know your friends, since you work from home, you're not doing anything. So they want to call and chit chat all day. You're like, no. And when you get those phone calls, go, oh, Paris, I'm so glad you called. I have 5 minutes. I'm working on a project. And when the 5 minutes go off, I got to go. You know what I do when I tell somebody, you know what, Frank, I only have 5 minutes. I set my timer. So in 5 minutes, when it goes off, they're like, oh, what's that? I said, oh, that's my timer. I'm so sorry. I have to get back to work. Yeah. And that's being respectful of your time and respectful of other people's times. And when you tell people that up front, they're more likely to appreciate that, because we can make more money. We can make more money. We can't make more time. Once it's gone, we can't get that back.
Yeah. So I got to tell you a story. I'm on a call with a client, and two of my kids come up and they're arguing, and I'm on this call, right? And I'm if it's a call, not a Zoom, so I have the luxury of throwing my hands up at the kids and pointing to the door and giving them the look. But when I'm on a Zoom, I can't do that. Yeah. And so, what are some things I can do? So I've got a call. It's with my boss. It's with a client. It's an important call, and I need to be on it, and I need to be focused. What do I do to prepare for that, with all these potential distractions at home?
Mm-hmm. So remember, we talked about earlier on Sunday, you're looking at your schedule, and you can tell your family on Wednesday, Thursday, whatever day it is, I have to be on a live conference call from this time to this time. So they already know.
Right.
When that day comes, okay, family, guess what? Remember, I'm on a live conference call. You can also, for your children, even for your spouse or other adults in the home, I think we talked about this before, Frank, get some flashcards, index cards, and, be like, help, or, get a red one that goes, the house is on fire, get out now, so they can hold up that card, because you're on a Zoom call. Like, you can kind of look up or look away and go, okay, that's, and you have to, for our children, you have to, maybe for our adults too, you have to establish what is an emergency.
Right.
Should I how many minutes do I need to put this in the microwave? It's not an emergency. That's not an emergency. The dog pooped on the carpet. That might be, but you know what? I can get it. You know what I'm saying? So you have to establish what is an emergency. Let me tell you a story. We used to have a dog, and she was a lab mix. And when people come to the door or the cars go down, she barks. And I told my family, when I'm in my office, I'm working. But if I close my door, I'm with a client, I cannot be disturbed. And I told the dog this, I don't know, the dog can understand English, I don't know.
Of course.
And I said, when the door is closed, don't bark. So I remember one time I had a coaching call, and I went to the kitchen to boil some eggs. And this is why I cook with a timer. That's why I talk about my timer. And I went in my office, closed the door, finished an hour later. And I finished the call, and I'm like, what is that smell? What is that smell? I opened the door and go, oh my God, I forgot about my eggs. And the dog is sitting there and looked at me like, well, I would have told you, but your door was closed. Thank you. So even the dog had, you can set boundaries,
Well, you shared a story, so I'm going to share a story. So,
okay.
With these Zoom calls now, you talked about getting out of your pajamas and so forth. So my kids are on a Zoom class with their entire class, and one of them needed a document from their room and asked me to go up and get it. Well, I ran past the camera up the steps and realized I didn't have a shirt on. So there are some things, Paris, that can't be unseen, and I hope I didn't put trauma on those third graders. But we do need to be mindful, right, of these Zoom calls and communication, and probably need to have that discussion around the house too. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. And that makes a good point. Etiquette for a Zoom call. Yeah, make sure that you're top and bottom, because a lot of people go, oh, they can't see my bottom.
Right.
You got your pajamas on. Yeah, like put on pants. Top and bottom in case you have to get up. Also, it's, in the chat, don't talk about your classmates. Don't talk about your coworkers, because if you're recording that, guess what? The chat gets recorded as well. So don't talk about people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. Any other tips?
No, I was going to say so for children, what I do when I have a Zoom call, if it's a call that I've scheduled, I always set my timer 5 minutes prior to the call. If it's a Zoom call that someone else has scheduled, I do 10 minutes just in case, we have technical issues or I have to download something. I have, a 10-minute leeway. But for children, and this happened I have a 5-year-old granddaughter. I know, I'm only 25, so I know it's hard to understand. Well, every morning at 8:00, they have a Zoom call with the classroom. Well, one morning, and this was like when the first 2 weeks of class. And they were like, you got to get up, you got to get up. So she gets up, hair's not combed, she's looking sleepy. And the teacher goes, oh, Lakeland, are you okay? And it was like, yeah, she's okay. She just woke up. So if the children have to be on Zoom as well, make sure that they're prepared and they don't look sleepy, because that is also distracting for other students as well as for the teacher.
Yeah. Well, so, we talked about, what's going on in the house, right? In the home, the overwhelming, being overwhelmed. So sort of the emotional, mental clutter, as well as being organized, whether it's at the kitchen table in an office space. And boy, a folding table will make a nice little, desk if you need it in the interim, before you get set up otherwise. Or, when I opened my business, I used a folding table as a desk for a year and a half, for the first year and a half of my business. So, those things can be done. What are some of the challenges, though, that you are running into with your clients from a company standpoint? So you own a business, small, medium, large, and because of folks working remotely, what are some of the larger organizational challenges that are out there, and what do you suggest to address them?
Delegation. That's the top of the list. Delegation and managing expectations. For example, with delegation, because of the pandemic, a lot of times the staff has been reduced to save money and other things. And you may have some team members that have to step into other roles, and because they want to work, they're afraid to say, I really can't do this. I don't know how to do this. But they haven't expressed that to you. Right. So you're giving them assignments and they're not doing it. So of course, that's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth for the next person. You're like, well, you know what? I might as well just do it. And so a lot of times business owners, a lot of my clients are struggling with having to delegate. I'm like, you cannot be the chief cook and bottle wash as well. You have to delegate this out. And how you delegate, you set expectations. Paris, this is the assignment that I need, and I need this by Friday. These are your objectives. Is this something that you can do? That puts it back on me to say, ooh, no, I can't do this. Oh, yes, I can have this done for you. Yeah. You see how you put that responsibility back on that person, so they have the opportunity to say, yes, I can do it, or no, I cannot.
Well, and would you agree that touch points are more important now than ever? Because let's be honest, in the office environment, I might walk by you 3 or 4 times a day and I can ask you the status of a project. But now we're working from home and I may not even talk to you every day. And next thing I know, deadlines aren't being met. And maybe I'm partly responsible because I haven't, been communicating with you. Any thoughts on that?
Look, #stolen, because you said touch points. I like that. Because people think of that as micromanaging, but it's touch points. I'm just checking in. I just want to see how things are going. You are not micromanaging them. You want to make sure that they're able to meet the objectives and the expectations that you set for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's about finding new ways to continue to strengthen relationships. And so, I'm a big fan of those touch points and even remotely now. On this Zoom, platform that you and I are on this podcast with, I can see you and you can see me, and I feel connected to you. I feel you. I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I love it. I think that it's better than a phone call. I mean, you got to do phone calls sometimes, and while we're all getting zoomed out, so to speak, I mean, don't you think we do need to make eye contact one way or the other from time to time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's good to have that phone conversation, but actually, I think that because of the situations that we're in, like you can pick up the phone and call anyone, but to actually have whether it's FaceTime or Zoom or Skype, actually see them for a coworker or an employee, it's like, oh my goodness, they care. Like they really wanted to check on me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'd like to ask you, we have a few minutes left here, and talk with us a little bit about, what it means to you to be a veteran-owned business, a veteran, and your connection with NaVOBA and how important that is to you.
It is. Oh my goodness. Let me. So I've been out since 1997. I'm only 25, remember, and. My business would not be here if it was not for NaVOBA. So when I got out of the military, and I think I'm a different type of breed. I transitioned very well back into civilian life, and then I started my business. And I understand that that's not always easy. And this organization has been, oh my goodness, gives me chills. When I need something, I can pick up the phone. Like I can call Mimi and say, I need help. Do you know? And she's like Johnny on the spot. And so whether it's this organization or other organizations, reach out, ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. Someone out there has either been through what you're going through, or has resources to get you where you need to be. So, and I realized that because I've been out so long, I love civilian life, but I have to have my military peeps because they understand me. They get it. And we were trained and we were taught certain ways. And we have this go-getter, this motivation, this determination that the civilians don't have. And so I have to be surrounded by my peeps, by my like-minded fellow veterans. I thrive on the military. I thrive on my veterans. And if these organizations, especially like NaVOBA, if they weren't here, I don't know where I would be.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I can tell you, your clients are very fortunate to have you because you're passionate, you're an expert at what you do, you're well accomplished, you're well read. And so my hat's off to you for all the great things that you're doing. And in some way, we all need Paris love. So I think that's great. So speaking of needing you and how to find you, every second Friday, Paris hosts a mini retreat called How to Manage the New Normal Without Losing Your Sanity. So, and we talked a little bit about that. So that's great. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit, tell your listeners more about that engagement opportunity?
So it's a mini retreat, and I understand that it's a lot going on. We have a lot going on. So every second Friday, we get together at 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I give you self-care techniques. You can ask all the questions you want, but it's really supporting you and getting you to where you need to be.
That's great. That's wonderful. Paris Love Productivity Institute, LLC. Your website is www.parisloveproductivityinstitute.com. And I assume folks can find you there?
Yes.
That's great. Well, I just want to say thank you and a salute to you, my friend, for being on our podcast. And thank you for joining me, Paris.
Thank you.
That's
for
all
having
the time that. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we'll be talking again. I can promise you that. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for this episode of NaVOBA's Marching Forward Mondays podcast. I would like to thank NaVOBA's corporate allies and this episode's sponsor, Lowe's Home Improvement. Lowe's has a proud history of supporting the communities where they live and work and is honored to play a role in the success of veteran-owned businesses. For the latest news, visit newsroom.lowes.com or follow @Lowe's Media on Twitter. To learn more about NaVOBA, please visit the website, navoba.org, NaVoba.org. I'm your host, Frank Vitale. Thanks for tuning in to NaVOBA's Marching Forward Mondays podcast, and have a great day.